iFanboy's coverage of the New York Comic Con is brought to you by Seagate, the storage of choice for creative professionals.
Hi, we're here with Jason and Aaron again.
How's it going?
Good. Nothing happened. The thing that I obviously want to talk to you about is the ending of Scalped. This is sort of the first big show since that has happened. How's it feel at the show to be, like that's wrapped up and now you've moved on?
I mean, it still feels weird, and I haven't quite moved on. Like, we still got the last trade to come out.
Right.
And I think
more promotion.
Next month, and that's actually got it's got a bunch of bonus stuff in it, a bunch of Guerra's sketches and different pieces. And I wrote like kind of sort of my final word on Scalp, my goodbyes to everybody. So that'll be in there. So I think when that comes out, that'll be like that's the last nail in the coffin, So yeah, I mean, it's still weird. I'm happy to have wrapped it up and told the story that I wanted to tell on my terms. Back when we first started, I never would have imagined, nobody would have put money on us getting to 60 issues. So the fact that we did is pretty amazing, which we owe guys like you who liked the book and talked it up online, all the fans out there who talked it up and like forced copies on their friends. Like, we never would have made it that far if it wasn't for all that support. So yeah, I'm still happy. It's a little bit sad, especially like last night here at New York Comic Con, we had our Scalped wrap party. So we had most of the creators there. Like, Guerra came over for just the second time from Spain, and Julia Brusco, our colorist, was there, and of course Will and Mark, our editors. Jock couldn't make it because he just had a baby. So I guess we'll let that slide.
That's fine.
So, I mean, that's the only sad part is especially when we get all of us together and I realize, like, oh, I don't get to work with these people on a daily basis anymore. That part sucks, but that doesn't mean we can't ever work together again. And certainly Guerra and I talk a lot about, what do we want to do for our next thing? Where do we want to do it? We're still trying to figure that out. He is doing it's like a first mention, but he is doing a variant cover for Thor #5 coming up, so that'll be like his first little taste of Marvel work. So yeah, that's the only sad part. I'm happy to have wrapped it up. It was time. I love those characters. I loved writing them, but that story was over. Hopefully, I was able to put a nice little bow on it. For people who've been reading for 60 issues. I mean, it's like 6 years of my life working on that book. So yeah, it feels good. And Scalp fans come up to me all the time and like they're all sad and they say, "Oh, I'm so sad the book is ending." I just want to say, like, I'm still here. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I can do other stuff. Like, come back. Don't.
There's a lot of the people who know the other stuff too, though. Maybe even more.
Sure, but this. I mean, I like the fact that I do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
People who read Scalp, I did a signing today. I don't often get a lot of people who come up with an issue of Scalp and an issue of Wolverine and the X-Men, both, to get me to sign. When I do, it's like, that's awesome. I love to see that.
Right.
But there are a lot of people who read one who've never read the other. But yeah, I mean, I'll always be doing other creator-owned work. I've said it the whole time I've been in comics. As long as I'm working in comics, I want to do something that's mine. I want to do something that's creator-owned. So yeah, there's more Scalped-like stuff coming from me. The stuff already in the works right now, I just can't talk about yet.
Well, now, and we talked about this a little before, but I don't know if people realize how new to the game you were when Scalped started. And so what's the difference between sort of where you're at now and where you were then? Because that was early for you.
Yeah, well, hopefully I know what the hell I'm doing at this point. I didn't really have any idea.
So eventually you do figure out what you're doing?
I guess so. Well, as long as the checks keep cashing, I figure I'm doing something right.
Right.
But yeah, when Scalp started, Scalp #1 was the third comic script I'd ever written. I'd written 2 issues of the other side at that point. So I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I was diving into an ongoing series. And having to pitch, like, write a big proposal for like 2-3 years worth of a book. So that's a lot to dive into, and working with Guerra, who was like a veteran artist. He hadn't done stuff here in the States, but had been doing stuff for years in Europe. So it was all very intimidating and overwhelming. And I don't know at what point I started to feel like I had my feet under me. I think maybe issues 4 and 5 felt better than the first 3, and then I think the second trade, Casino Boogie, I felt better than the first trade. Then by the third trade, I think Gara and I were really on page together and started to hit our stride.
I mean, like, so at that early point, I mean, were you just like, I guess I'll just do this? And
Well, no, I don't want to make myself sound too incompetent.
no, I just mean like at a certain point, if you feel like you're underwater or like you're about, but you just go, well, I guess I'll just have to do my best and see what happens. I mean,
Well, I mean that's what I do every day. I mean, comics is a serialized medium. So, I mean, if I don't turn those X-Men scripts in, Marvel will hire somebody else to do it. Like, that's the nature of the beast. And you have deadlines, and the books have to come out. And, I mean, Scalped is the same way. Scalped is creator-owned, so you get a little more leeway. And we certainly took advantage of that at times and, shipped late more often than we should have. But, yeah, I mean, that's sort of all the way it is. You don't have the time to be too precious with it.
Right.
Certainly on Scalped, I mean, I've worked harder on that book than probably anything else I've ever done, just because it's such a long period of my life. And it was special too because that was like my first baby, But yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of that to everything. There's no school for writing comic books that I know of, so you kind of have to figure out what the hell you're doing as you go. But I think if you can tell a story, then you can tell a story. It doesn't matter if you're writing a movie or a TV show or a comic or anything.
do you feel like it worked out for you? I don't want to say that you had an easy path to it, but when you got started, like you sort of got started really, you didn't toil in doing comics that nobody read for years before you sort of started working professionally. Do you think that helped you in the long run? Like, well, I guess I'm cool with this.
I guess I didn't take the Rick Remender approach.
Yeah.
Which I think just goes to show that I'm a much better writer than Rick Remender.
Clearly.
Because I didn't struggle and toil for so many years. I just showed up and was awesome and got a bunch of jobs. No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel very lucky the way things have worked out for me. I mean, I won a talent search contest as my first break. Like, that's pretty lucky. Like, Marvel had never done that before, and they haven't done it since. So,
When you sent that entry in, what were you thinking? Oh, I'll just do this and I'll be proud of myself for doing it, or are you like, I've got this. I know I've got a great little story.
I wrote that entry literally like the day before I sent it in. I had an idea and I wrote it up and sent it in and thought, like, what the hell? Like, what do I have to lose? Dropped it in a box piled with others and forgot about it. And months later, I remember I thought they had announced the winner. Like, they announced the winner in some of the other contests, and I thought they had announced that one. I thought, well, I didn't win that,
Got in the game though.
So yeah, I mean, I had no idea. Like,
That's great.
I went to school, was an English major, and I knew I wanted to write, but at the time I didn't know much. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I knew enough to know, like, I'm not very good at this yet. Like, when I was in college, I would go to these writers' conferences, and everybody there is just interested in, like, how do I get an agent? How do I get published? Like, I've written the next Bridges of Madison County. Like, this just needs to be sold. But I just knew, like, I'm not very good. Like, I don't think my shit's good enough that somebody should pay money to read it. So I just kind of worked for years on getting better. And I just always thought, like, if I just get good enough, if I'm literally good enough someday that it's worth paying money for, like, I can figure the rest of this shit out. This other stuff will happen somehow. Like, in terms of breaking in, meeting the right people. Like, that, to me, seems like the easy part. It's like being actually good enough to warrant their attention is the hard part. So I always say, if you just focus on that first one, like, that's all you can control. The other stuff, you do your best, and eventually I think it'll happen if you're good enough.
I guess shifting gears a little bit, it's interesting to me because obviously you do a bunch of different books and none of them are like any of the other ones. So you've got Thor coming up, radically different than X-Men, radically different than Scalped. I guess what can we expect? What's your Thor going to have going forward? And I've heard good things.
It's good.
You know that, don't you?
I don't know. Are you saying I pay people to tell you good things?
You seem very confident is what I'm saying.
Thor, I'm having a blast. It is very different than the other stuff I'm doing with Marvel right now. It's very different than Wolverine the X-Men. In one sense, I think it's the darkest, most serious thing I've done at Marvel. But on the other hand, there are like winged horses and cities populated with untold gods and dragons and all sorts of craziness. So there's like a balance between, grittiness and like crazy dark Kirby stuff. And it's got everything I love about Thor. It's got Vikings, it's got Thor drinking lots of mead, screwing lots of women, getting into lots of trouble. It's got, Thor going on cosmic adventures to different far corners of the Marvel universe, some of which are brand new, designed in living color by Esad Ribic. new monsters, new villains, new allies. And then I'm a big Conan fan. Like Conan was my jam when I was like a teenager. My favorite Conan stories were always the King Conan stories, where you see how this rambunctious barbarian grows up to be the ruler of his own kingdom. So I knew I wanted to do a big King Thor story. So we see King Thor like thousands of years into the future. Asgard's in ruin. We don't know what the hell happened, where things went wrong. Thor's got one arm and one eye. His hammer is all beat to shit. So then all that gets wrapped together. All these 3 different eras of Thor get wrapped together and strung together by one new villain who's just going around the universe killing gods, killing as many gods as he can. He's a serial killer. He's a creepy guy. This is not like a Stan Lee Kirby villain who just comes in swinging a big hammer and saying, "I'm going to kill a bunch of gods." Like, this dude's going around in the shadows, slitting throats and cutting people up. So it's there's horror, there's fantasy, there's cosmic madness, all of that wrapped up in something that really at the end of the day is just a big exploration of who is Thor, what goes on in Thor's head, what does he want, where has he been, and where is he going.
That sounds like a whole lot of fun. That really does. That's good. Now, I'm not allowed to talk to you about Wolverine and the X-Men. There's a guy, and he's really into it. So I'm gonna.
iFanboy policy.
Yeah, it's a thing. I'm literally not allowed to. So I have to leave, and then.
Can you guys tag in?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh. Thank you.
Nice bulbs there, Ron.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're talking about my Seagate GoFlex satellite hard drive.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, we want to thank Seagate for sponsoring all of our New York Comic-Con coverage. And with this little hard drive, you can store up to 300 movies, music, audio files, books, all your media needs, all stored in this external hard drive.
You got 500 gigabytes. Just stream it right to your devices.
It's got Wi-Fi in it. It can stream to your iPad, your Android tablet, to whatever Wi-Fi device you might have. Great for on the go, for road trips.
You just download a free app onto your device, and then you put your thing in there, and you just stream it right to it. You don't need to worry about anything.
Great battery life. It stays around. It's great, like I said, great for road trips. I was here at the con. I just sat down and watched a movie. That's all I did.
Yeah, and you can keep it in your pocket, just like Ron had it there. Not very cumbersome. It's a 500 gigabyte hard drive. That's not giant.
Exactly. And best of yet, iFanboy watchers can go get 10% off by going to Seagate.com/iFanboy. Pick up a Seagate GoFlex hard drive satellite for yourself.
Now put it back in your pocket.
I will. I'm gonna get out of here.
All right.
How you doing, Jason?
I'm great. I like that it takes like a tag team of iFanboy guys to interview me. Like, just one guy can't handle it. Like,
Right.
You gotta
Well-
balance it out.
And also, we should acknowledge that the nice part of the interview is over. That
great.
I've got a list of things that I've been working on that I need to talk to you about.
Together where it starts.
Where do you think it starts? Where do you think it starts?
I'm gonna guess Cyclops.
Maybe Cyclops, yeah. So Avengers vs. X-Men, you were one of the, as I'm calling it now, the nefarious writers who have architected
It's great.
the demise of my favorite character, Cyclops. Now, I need to step up. I'm taking off my press hat, and this is purely me as angry fanboy. No, I'm kidding, but I'm partially kidding. But so, Avengers vs. X-Men.
I respond to that. Of course, of all the many people involved with AVX, I'm the only one here for you to berate.
Oh no, I also have a list of people to berate, and I will go to Portland and talk to Bendis if I have to.
A lot of X fans assume I hate Cyclops for some reason because I write a lot of Wolverine, and right now Wolverine kind of hates Cyclops.
Yeah.
Like, don't ever mistake a character's words for a writer's words. I would.
Oh no, I don't.
That for everything. Like, I really like Cyclops.
Yeah.
I would say, I think what has happened with Cyclops paves the way for a lot of interesting Cyclops stories that we've never seen before. You may not like you may have argue about how things worked out for Cyclops at AVX. You could say, man, Cyclops was right all along.
Yeah.
I think you can make that point. Certainly he still made mistakes in the midst of that. But I wrote the last issue. I wrote the ending of AVX, and it's a valid point for Cyclops to say, shit, I was right. Like, this worked out like I said it would work out.
Yeah.
So, and there will certainly be people in the Marvel universe who will echo that sentiment. So, I mean, everything you do with these Marvel characters, these characters have been around for decades. Every character is somebody's favorite. We all got into comics reading, like a superhero book or another, and we all want to read, I want to read that stuff that made me a fan in the first place. But, at some point, you got to try new things with characters. You got to take them different directions. They just get stagnant. So
Are you telling me that this is my maturing time? That this is I've got to grow as a reader?
I'm saying it's all going to be okay, Ron.
Is it?
Cyclops is not going anywhere, and there's some cool Cyclops stories coming up.
Well, I mean,
I'm not writing any.
I carry this around with me every day, and it's kind of like my totem. I kind of to get me through the day. And now he's got the red goggles and he's in prison. How do I look up to that? How is that my hero?
I would say just keep reading. I would say keep reading.
Yeah. No, and I can separate the story, and I don't get me wrong, I get it from a critical standpoint. The positioning Cyclops as kind of the new Magneto, and the natural extension of his life and his raising up under Xavier and where he went with Utopia. I get it. It's my favorite. It's my guy.
He's still around.
Yeah.
If anything, I think Cyclops is more important and relevant to the Marvel Universe now than he's probably ever been.
Yep.
Like, he's certainly on a bigger stage. I mean, if anything, Avengers versus X-Men brought the X-Men back right into the middle of the Marvel Universe in a huge way, which they haven't been for a long time. They would occasionally pop up in some of the events or be mentioned in the broader scope of things, but for the most part, they were left to their own devices. So.
Right.
That's not the case anymore. I mean, they're smack dab in the middle of everything that's going on.
Right.
I mean, Uncanny Avengers just sold like a
lot.
500,000 copies or whatever, like crazy amount of copies. So the X-Men are back. The X-Men are back.
And I like Havoc. He's cool. He's another blonde white dude, but it's.
He's a Summers. Doesn't
exactly.
that count for something?
Oh yeah, no, it does. It does. It's one pro.
One Summers for another.
Yeah, exactly. But so, and so within the tapestry of AVX, I actually personally thought that the way you handled the AVX crossovers of Wolverine the X-Men were probably the most elegant of any of the crossover books in terms of that you gave Wolverine the X-Men context within the event, but you also moved your story along.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, the whole thing, which I said from the beginning, is I didn't want my book to suddenly feel like it stopped for 6 months. I mean, 6 months is a long time. Yeah. And I think we did 8 or 9 tie-in issues. That's a lot of tie-ins. Yeah. Especially since the book had just started. I think we were on issue 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So half the book so far has been tie-ins. So the book couldn't suddenly stop and become about Cyclops and Hope and these characters who had never appeared in the book before. So certainly some of that is there and when it was relevant. But yeah, I wanted to advance the stories that I was setting up. The book had just gotten started and I was just introducing a whole bunch of characters and really I'd just kind of gotten everything on the table. Yeah. So, I'm happy with a lot of the stuff that I was able to do in AVX, those AVX tie-ins. We got the background of Warbird, who's one of the new characters. What the hell else did I do? Now I'm drawing a blank.
Well, actually, that brings me to my next point, is that over 18 issues, you had us fall in love with a little alien, and then just this past Wednesday, you ripped our collective hearts out.
Yes, I did.
Why, Jason? Why do you build us up and then tear us down? That's what I want.
I will say I've never been more happy to see so many people on Twitter calling me a monster and an evil person, telling me to go to hell. I actually found that kind of endearing. I really appreciate all your hate mail. Because it's nice that you people cared. People care. It's a new character. It's really hard to get people invested in new characters. So that's great that so many people were angry with me. I would just say thank you, and I hope you will keep reading. This is one big story that I'm trying to tell with all my X-Men stuff. This is part of the story. This is the whole idea with Wolverine and the X-Men is this is a book about change. It's about family, it's about growing up, it's about school, it's about parenthood. In the midst of all that kind of stuff, there's going to be turmoil, there's going to be tragedy. The things are going to get shaken up from time to time, and this post AVX stuff is a big shakeup for the book in a lot of ways. The cast gets shaken up. Certainly, what happened to Broo is a part of that. But I would
killed Quentin. You couldn't have killed Quentin. Nobody likes Quentin. Come on.
Have you met Grant Morrison? I don't want to piss off Grant Morrison.
I have, and I agree with you.
Put some kind of mojo on me. I just kill off my own character. What? Can't do anything to myself. No, I would just say keep reading. Pick up the next issue is our first Marvel Now branded issue. Yeah. we're not relaunching the book. We're not doing a new #1. We could have done that. We talked about that.
Well, yeah. So tell me, and you can go. We're friendly here. We can go behind the scenes. How much of a bullet did you dodge with Marvel Now and Wolverine the X-Men? Because when I first heard about it, I was like, they better not touch Wolverine the X-Men. Like, considering we're seeing creative teams get shaken up, relaunching, you had just started, and it was magic. It was like your book and Daredevil were the two books where like they better not mess with that.
Why? I mean, yeah. In the midst, it was crazy. It was a crazy time when we realized, okay, we're doing the creator shakeup. Like that kind of happened gradually. We knew Brian was leaving Avengers, and then Jonathan was leaving, and suddenly everything's up for grabs. So
Up is down, black is white.
So in the midst of that, I was like, oh, I really want to write Thor. Then I also had to plant my flag and say, I don't want to leave Wolverine the X-Men. Like this book wasn't even coming out yet. And I felt like this could be something special. Like Bachalo's doing amazing work. Like I don't want to leave this. So I planted my flag and it said, regardless of what else happens with the X-Men, this is a different book. This is a school book. So yeah, I had to.
Was there resistance or?
No, but I had to state my case and say like I don't want to lose this one. Like,
let's give you some credit. You can be intimidating. I mean, the beard, the look, with Scalped behind you, you could be like, listen, this is my book, and Axel, you're gonna have to deal with it.
It's all a sham. I'll let you in on that little secret. Don't tell anybody at Marvel. Nobody at Marvel watches this, do they?
No, of course not. Of course not.
So yeah, I did not want to lose that book. I hope to be on this book for a long time. In terms of like Marvel Now, we could have done a brand new #1. I mean, a lot of stuff's relaunching with a #1. We talked about it at one point. And I'm sure I could have manufactured a reason for us to have a new #1. Right. Broo getting shot at the end of issue 18 maybe opens with a funeral. I don't know. But I didn't want to do that. Like Nick Lowe didn't want to do that, my editor. It didn't feel right. The book, just started a year ago. We're not dramatically changing the status quo of the book. This is, if anything, with year 2 now, we're getting back to where we were those first 8-9 issues before the AVX stuff. This is really just a continuation of that. So yeah, no new #1. It'll be branded Marvel Now. Nick Bradshaw, who was the #2 guy behind Chris Bachalo, now he's our #1 guy. He's our main guy.
So good. It's so
really good.
Yeah.
Like, and he's like you say this a lot. Like, oh, this is his best. This is the guy's best stuff ever. But just wait until you see the next issue 19 is like his first issue back, and then he does. 3 issues after that, kind of our first big arc. It looks amazing. Like it is I think it's easily his best stuff he's done on Wolverine the X-Men.
Well, so now to continue on my list,
Long list.
I got a long. I told you, it's just gonna be a while. We should get comfortable. Kitty Pryde. Now I applaud what you did with her and Colossus. We got to move on. Life goes on. You got to, like those sort of things. Rumblings of her with.
I didn't do anything with her and
Well,
Colossus.
no. Well,
I didn't break them up.
Well, no. But
are you blaming me for
no,
everything you
I'm
don't
not
like
blaming you.
about?
No, I'm fine with them being broken up.
What else did I do wrong?
No. You're not doing anything wrong. It's more what continue to not do wrong by her. How are you going to treat Kitty right? Because Kitty's important, and I'm seeing rumblings of Iceman. Is that in her future, or?
You say rumblings like they've kissed twice, and they've talked about a date.
Listen, it's a soap opera, all right? Go with it.
Yes, that's a story. Like issue 24, which I just wrote like a few days before I came here, is our date issue. It's like our teacher's night out. So teachers are going out to let their hair down. Wolverine has to babysit the kids.
Nice.
And we see Kitty and Iceman on their first date. Of course, things don't work out quite the way you might expect, but I'll wait and let you see how that happens. But yeah, that's, again, the theme of the book has changed. So, Kitty and Colossus were great together, but we've seen that story a lot of times. And to me, Kitty and Iceman make sense in some way. They were both the kids of the X-Men, of their groups of the X-Men. And they've been bonded together through everything that's going on post-Schism. So I like that, and I will continue to explore that.
Because, Iceman's a handsome fella, brown hair from Long Island. I'm a handsome fella from Long Island with the brown hair. I connect. Oh, yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. And Kitty's important, so I just want to make sure that ship is going in the right direction.
I love Kitty.
Yeah.
I like having Kitty as head mistress, and Kitty will continue to be a big part of the book. Now, if you can... I don't think it's any secret if you look at Bendis taking over all new X-Men. Brian's a pretty big Kitty Pryde fan too, so I think if anything you'll see more Kitty Pryde in the future.
Well, the whole past year of Wolverine the X-Men, I can't believe it's 18 issues. I mean, I know double shipping, but it still feels like a new book, and it still feels so new and energetic. And as a 20-year plus X-Men fan, like I'm excited. Like what you and Remender did on X-Force, two very different tones, but have completely revitalized the line for me.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I mean, Wolverine the X-Men was kind of a gamble, and it is a very different sort of X-Men book than we've seen in a while. So I've been very grateful that people have really responded to it. Again, I appreciated all the hate mail when Broo got shot in the head. Yeah. I like that people have bought in. People really like this. Like I know some of the longtime X-Men fans grumble a little bit that they don't like Kitty and Iceman together. Yeah. Kitty should be with Colossus. They don't like that I bring in new characters like Broo or Warbird. Like they would rather I focus on more on Rockslide or some of the other kids who are already at the mansion. But I always try to remind X fans, like every person who's gotten into reading comics, reading the X-Men or whatever, like you have your idea of like this is the perfect team. Like this was what I was reading when I became a fan. Like for me, the new Teen Titans will always be like Wolfman Perez lineup because that's a book that turned me into a superhero fan. Like that was my gateway drug to reading comics. So every generation of comic fans needs that gateway drug. They need those characters, new characters they can latch onto and say, like I was there from the beginning with this character, I want to see where it goes. Yeah. So that, I mean, everything I've tried to do with X-Men is a balance and a mix between the stuff I like from the past and new stuff. Yeah. New stuff. And I hear from a lot of people who haven't read X-Men in years or never read X-Men at all, and they like it. They can pick it up and understand what's going on and feel like they're in on the ground floor or something. So I still feel like I'm just getting started on that book. Like you said, it's year 2, like 19 issues in 1 year. That's a lot.
That's crazy.
But like half of them, were AVX tie-ins. So I still feel like we're just getting started.
You made it through the hardest part. You survived a crossover, dude. A 6-month crossover you survived. So that's an accomplishment.
We got a lot of extra readers from those crossovers who will hopefully stick around.
We'll bolster sales, right. And everything works. And I give you a hard time, but I'm how a huge of a fan of your work that you've been doing on it, and how I do love it. And it's the first book I read when it comes out. So on behalf of all X-Men fans, thank you.
And just for you, in issue 22, I think it is, we see Quentin Quire starts to wear the Cyclops was right T-shirt.
Awesome, very good. Well, yeah, so long live Cyclops. We've taken enough of your time. I know you got to go do the rest of the show here, so I'm sure we've been here for 2 days.
I was just going to follow you guys around all weekend.
Cool.
That's
cool. Yeah. So well, we're a lot closer now, so that works. So
right. We shared Morrison Con.
We did share. You survived Morrison Con. We should make T-shirts that says I survived Morrison Con. Yeah.
I had a great time at Morrison Con, as you well know. You were there.
Yep. Well, thank you for coming and joining us on that crazy gambit. That was great.
It was great. If you do Morrison Con too, let me know. I'll be there.
Well, so now here we are at New York Comic Con. How does it feel post Morrison Con? Because I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, right? It's a little bit different. Yeah. I mean, I like the show. I come to New York Comic Con every year. Yeah. But yeah, it's totally different atmosphere. We can go to a little show like Morrison Con and actually like hang out, just sit and talk to people. Yeah. Like we've done right now
for an hour
with legions of fans. Like a few hundred fans, as opposed to here where you walk around and you shake hands and you say a few words to people, and it's great. Like I love signing people's books. I'll sign however many you want to bring up, but you just don't get a lot of time to actually talk to somebody and have a real conversation.
They serve different purposes. I mean, this show, it's such 120,000 people here in New York, and opportunity for fans, and we just wanted something a little more intimate. So where we can have quiet moments together.
There were quiet moments, yes. But New York City's great. I love coming here just to be in New York City.
Yeah, best city in the world.
What? Sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason. As always, it's a pleasure. Look forward to talking to you again in the future.
All right. Next time I do something mean to Cyclops,
I have your phone number now, so it's you're doomed.
Great. Let me give you Bendis's number.
Oh, I have that too. I don't bother that one though.
I'll start forwarding all those calls to his inbox. That's his problem now. It's not mine. Just send me like the angry, alien shot in the head phone calls. I'll take those.
Yeah. Oh, broke our hearts, man. Just ripped it and stepped on it.
You got audio?
You didn't miss it.
That's true.
What's sad is that did you give an outpour, like a very emotional, personal? Yeah, exactly.
I would have been really upset about that.
This really never happened on film before.
What's great is that we can just release it as a silent film.
Hey, can we do this?
All right,
Do you
yeah.
mind?